pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time, I would welcome any public comments on any item not related to tonight's agenda. Is there anybody here who has anything to say along those lines? No surge from the crowd, so I guess we're all through with the public comments. Next, I think we should review the minutes from the last meeting. That was October 12th. And does anybody have anything to review on that, or anything to add or correct?
Make the motion to accept the minutes, October 12th.
Second.
Okay. During the discussion, I just want to bring up one item, and that was something that Diane and I mentioned today. It was on page 2, line 40. The wide paving stones are not 24 feet wide, they're 24 inches. No biggie. If you could make that correction.
What line? 20.
Page 2, line 40.
Yep.
Okay. Any other corrections?
Page 6, line 21. Health, safety, and general welfare will not injurious. Should it be not be injurious?
Okay.
Or not cause injury?
Whatever. Anything else? Eric, you want to change your motion just to?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Second.
Okay, made and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor of accepting the minutes as amended?
Aye.
Any opposed? So be it.
I'll abstain.
Okay, Adam Schrader. Oh, by the way, Adam, I would like to appoint you to sit in for, in this case, George Willant, who is going to be absent this evening, and our chairman, John Badger, is also absent. I'm sitting in his chair, and we were unable to reach Justin to sit in for him as an alternate, but we have a quorum. We will continue. Let's see, the first item of regular business is from applicant Donald Tucker. He is seeking a waiver of impact fees for a new single-family home at 22 Neal Mill Road, tax map R7, lot 4-2. It's in an R1 zone. Mr. Tucker?
Yep.
I've met before the board before a few times, but never really had the opportunity to plead my own case. I applied for a building permit on July 28th, and I paid my $1,200 that day. And on September the 2nd, which was approximately 6 weeks later, I was given my building permit, but also attached to the building permit was stapled a piece of paper that said I was being assessed an impact fee. I was also told that if I wanted to appeal it, or if I wanted to ask for a waiver, I should go formally through the town planner, which is Diane Hardy. So I wrote a letter to Diane back on September 15th. I can read you the letter, but just in case, I made some copies of it if you would like a copy of the letter for the members of the board.
I think we already made copies for.
You did, okay. So the land that we're talking about and the property in question, I actually purchased from the Hamill family in 1995. It was December 27th. I've been a taxpayer of the town for the last 15 years in various ways, primarily through my property taxes. But I've also had a couple of timber harvests, and when you do a timber harvest, the town participates in that as well. They get 10% of that. I paid taxes to the town for as many as 3 or 4 trailers at a time, a couple of tractors, trucks, cars. It isn't like asking for something that is out of the ordinary, I don't believe, but out of the ordinary when you look at impact fees and what they are, and I'm sure this isn't the first time someone has stood before the board questioning an impact fee. Because as I understand a fee, it is for a professional service or service. On the description of the impact fee, if you hook up to a sewer or you hook up to the town water, obviously you should pay an impact fee of some type. Unfortunately, where I am in the woods, I am 750 feet off the road, and the road itself, Neal Mill Road, is a little dead end. I think some of you board members have been out there for tours and so forth. I had to put in, obviously, a state-approved septic system, which impacted me about $12,000. I had to put in a well for my water, which is another $6,000. When I finally get the green light to move into this house, which will probably be right after the first of the year, I have to pull about 5 acres out of current use. And at that time, there's a formula for taking 10% of the appraised value at that time and paying a penalty on that as well, which I don't know what the number will be, but I wouldn't want to guess at this point in time. So I looked at this and said, two of these things are actually a no-brainer. Certainly, I would be exempt from the water and the I guess we call it the wastewater treatment. The school, and I will be 70 on my next birthday, which is December 31st. It's always a great night. With an aging taxpayer who has never had a child in the Newmarket school system, I certainly have contributed my share over the past 15 years towards the school, but never had a child in the school system. When I first moved to Newmarket, my stepdaughter was going into her senior year at Oyster River, and having spent 11 years there, she wanted to finish at Oyster River. So needless to say, I couldn't come up with a fictitious address in Durham. I paid $6,500 to Oyster River to get her through her last year of school. So I've never used the school system, and like the water and like the sewer, if it's a fee that is a service, I'll never use it. The only one that might be in question really might be the Parks and Recreation, but I own 110 acres of land, and at my age, it keeps me awfully busy, and I really don't see how I would use or utilize the town's facilities for Parks and Recreation. So I'm asking for a waiver. I don't know what else I can do to present my case, but if you have questions, I'll do my best to answer them, but I don't know what the next logical step is.
Well, Mr. Tucker, I feel extremely well qualified in handling the no-brainer part of it, and that is the water and sewer, and I can see where that should be waived without a question, and I don't even have to poll a membership in that case. I would think that there is probably a room for some discussion. I, too, am 70 years old, 71. Mm-hmm. I've been watching with interest the vote down in Hamilton, Massachusetts, where there is a new plan afoot to waive the school portion of the taxes for those of us over 70 years old. There are all kinds of requirements to be met, so that it isn't an easy fix either. But so I sympathize with you. However, I do think that the way I look at it, I would think that we would want to consider it as a fixture. A house is a fixture that's going to outlive you and me, certainly, and it's going to have an impact, whether it's with your family or another family that moves in some other time, and so forth and so on. And since it's a one-time fee and it isn't paid repetitively as the house changes hands and so forth, that would be my concern.
Well, I would share the concern, other than there's never any guarantee as to who's going to buy the house.
No, there isn't.
There could be someone move in that is my age again and live another 25 years or 20 years.
Right.
Or there could be someone that chooses not to have children and lives there for 50 years.
Right.
it's an unknown, and I guess would be my reaction to the other side of it. And again, I don't feel as though when I will pay my property taxes next year as a resident of Newmarket, again, I haven't lived here for 5 years, but I've owned my property during this period of time. I know that a good portion of my property tax bill, and the biggest portion of it, is for the school. And never having utilized the school, it isn't a question of trying to walk away from that. I know that happens. But why someone would be assessed for a service that they're not going to use, I don't understand.
Please.
Based upon our zoning, it would, and I would defer to Diane for some, consultation on this. I believe we have the authority under F4 to waive the wastewater treatment and the water supply and treatment. I don't see within our ordinance that we as a planning board have any authority to waive the other two impact fees based on the language in the ordinance. Not to say that that Mr. Tucker couldn't go to the zoning board for a variance to the ordinance, but I would defer to Diane to, based upon the ordinance, where it would give us the right in this situation, because it is a new development of single family that has occurred after the adoption of the ordinance. So I guess that would be a question. Do we even have a right to waive those two fees?
Could I raise another point?
Please.
I'm reading from the Newmarket Impact Fee Assessment, which I'm sure you all have seen copies of, or maybe you're reading from them. And certainly the wastewater treatment and the water supply is spelled out. It's assessed only on new or upgraded connections to the public water system, which bears out what you're saying. However, when it says public schools, the last paragraph says, fee not applicable to housing for elderly. That could be taken a number of ways.
Yeah, I'm
There
sorry.
is a section in our ordinance that pertains to waivers. And item 1 does talk about waivers for public schools for residents or residential units that are lawfully restricted to occupancy by senior citizens age 62 or over, or with at least one person 55 years or older. And that, of course, has to be maintained in compliance with various state laws, including the Housing for Older Persons Law, RSA 354A15. So in this particular case, this is not an age-restricted unit per se. If it was a unit such as Wadley Falls Development up the street from us, that was built under a federal program that restricts
I
tenancy
understand
to
that. I'm
people
pointing
over
out what
55.
it says in black and
So,
white, yeah.
in that particular case, that particular unit would be exempt from the requirements. But in this particular case, it's not an age-restricted program per se.
Diane, do we have to Val's question, do we have the ability to waive
Like,
this?
where in the ordinance
we-
do we have the
right.
ability to waive these?
And there, as I was mentioning, there is a section on waivers, and there's on 6 conditions under which you can waive. And I have reviewed them, and I concur with Valerie that I don't think there is any particular category here that would apply to this situation. That's with all due respect,
than-
of course.
Other than 4 for the wastewater and water.
That's correct, and I think we've all
That's spelled out in the.
we all agree that that will be waived. So I think that Valerie's suggestion is appropriate, that the applicant can choose to go to the zoning board of adjustment and seek a variance from the terms of the impact fee ordinance and present his argument there, and if it meets the criteria for granting of a variance, then they can grant that for you.
My only question would be, why didn't we send them there at the beginning? Is this just new that you found out?
This is I think the first case we've had since I've been here where it's been a single-family homeowner who's requesting relief.
Yep.
In the other instances, we've been dealing with accessory apartments that have a very specific purpose in mind, such as the manager's office at the Citgo, I believe it was, and
Right.
certain
No,
mother,
Yeah.
in-law
I understand that,
apartments. And
it's,
it just didn't seem like this particular case fell into the category where it could be waived by the planning board.
no, I'm not disagreeing with that, I'm just saying it's, I hate to have somebody come here and have to speak before us, only have us say, sorry, go to another board.
well-
Well, we can at least make a motion, and when the chair would like to have a motion, I'm willing to make it, that there are impact fees that we can waive. And
Sure.
then additionally, Mr. Tucker would have the right that if the impact fees aren't used within a certain period of time, you have the right to request the refund of those fees.
Right. Well, was Mr. Tucker assessed the impact fees for the water, and were you told you had to pay the water and wastewater impact fees? That was never
I
part of it. So
don't-
I don't think there's anything for us to waive.
No, I was told that those would be waived. Yeah, but I mean, it's in the description
We have to go through the formal
of,
process of our ordinance in order to
Okay.
do that.
Yeah.
Because when a building permit is issued, the impact fees are assessed, and the occupancy permit won't be released until they're paid
Well, but the
or
paper-
waived.
Right, but the paper I have here says, the way I read this, it says he's been assessed $36.94, which means
That's
that
right.
the building inspector didn't even try to assess those.
Well,
This
this
is
is a
your writing.
notation that I put on just
Oh,
for
that's
the
yours, okay.
clarification of the
Okay.
board, yeah.
Okay. I understand, okay.
Yep.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I would like to make a motion that in regards to Mr. Tucker's property located at 22 Neal Mill Road, tax map R7, lot 4-2 in the R1 zone for the waiver of impact fees for the new single-family home, that the board grants a waiver under Article 7, F4, that we waive the wastewater treatment and the water supply and treatment impact fees based on the conditions specific to this development, that it will not increase the demand on the capacity of the public capital facility or system for which those impact fees are being assessed.
Second.
Now, are you referring to the water and sewer?
Water and sewer, I
Okay.
specifically limited
Just
to
wanna make
that.
sure we're on the same page.
Is there discussion? Okay. No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Or abstention? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tucker.
so I go to the Board of,
CBA.
what's, next board?
Board of Adjustment.
Where do I find them?
If you come to the planning office and speak with Sue Jordan, she can give you the application materials and get you scheduled for the next meeting, which will probably be 30 days out from here, because they just met last evening.
Thank you all for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. All right, the next order of business, the applicant, Edward H. Thorne, James B. Maston. The proposal is to add office space for an oil business at 22 North Main Street, tax map U2, lot 266, in a B1 zone. Sir,
Ed Thorne, 7 North Main Street, more commonly known as Cy. Guy was looking for me the other day and he couldn't find me because nobody in town knew who Ed was. I'm here representing both Jimmy and I. We have a extra office in the main part of the bowling alley building that we had previously used as an office and now have combined the two offices that we have into just one so that we can entertain a new tenant. And we're here looking for that privilege from you people.
do we have any, well, let's see, we have a drawing that you've supplied us with,
Yep.
which Lays out the way you'd like to have things. And
If anyone likes to see a large-scale version of the boundary.
Are we doing this under site plan?
Yes, a limited site plan.
Limited site
And I'll
plan.
explain to you why. The application requires a minor site plan review as it involves a change in use of a non-residential site for a site less than 2,000 square feet in size. So it falls into the minor site review category.
Is it a permitted use?
It is a permitted use. The property is located in a B1 district, and in the B1 district, service businesses and offices are permitted use in that zone.
I think it's a fine idea then.
Yeah.
It's all interior work, right? Nothing outside, no work outside.
There's, well,
Has an application actually been submitted and this has been
Yes.
noticed, properly noticed to abutters?
Yes.
And none
Yes,
of the
it
abutters
has.
are here?
that's correct. With respect to your question, no, there's no alterations to the site per se. However, there is an area on site that could be designated for parking associated with the use. I think one parking space is required for 250 square feet. The question I had was how many oil delivery trucks will be parking in that back parking lot as well? Is it more than one or two, or?
Let
how
me
large of a
defer
s-
to
how
the-
scale of- How large of a scale of operation is it?
Yeah. How many trucks are you gonna have there, Gilly?
While I'm at the office, there'll be one truck parked there part-time, while I'm there. When I'm not, and overnight, it will not be there. It'll still be at 21 Long Site.
Okay,
where they're at.
wherever it is currently, okay,
It's pretty straightforward then.
yeah. Just a couple of things, unless the board has other questions for Mr. Thorne. The parking area is shown or respects, if you will, a 35-foot side yard requirement. However, there is a requirement in our ordinance that there be some kind of a buffer provided between parking areas and any adjacent residential properties. And under the terms of our regulations, there should be a 10-foot buffer, and it should be landscaped and vegetated. And I guess I would just throw out the question to the board for discussion's sake, whether the board wishes to require some kind of landscaping to provide that buffer. There is a single-family home that's built closer to the road, and there's a pool in the back. It's quite a distance, though, to where this parking area is. And there's also
partially-
a change in grade. There's like a 10-foot change in grade, I'd say.
It's partially treed in that area anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, I'm not interested in asking for that. I don't know what the
Basically,
This is basically an existing condition, that this is not gonna change that existing condition, except for
Okay.
building some office space, so.
Now, excuse me,
Do you
did you?
want a motion to accept the application?
Oh, we could do that, yeah?
That'd be nice.
Make a motion that
Okay.
we accept the application as substantially complete from Edward H. Thorne and James B. Maston for the addition of an office space for an oil business located at 22 North Main Street, tax map U2, lot 266 in the B1 zone.
Second.
Any more discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Would that be the only waiver that, from your?
Well, there's a couple of things I just wanted to bring to the board's attention and for discussion purposes. In our regulations currently, it requires that all parking areas be paved. And it's my understanding this area that Mr. Thorne has identified for parking is a gravel area. And if, again, it's not a significant area, it's probably what, 500 square feet, maybe? This area that you've shown on the plan for
If
parking.
that much.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and of course, these days, we're talking a lot about encouraging infiltration into the ground
Natural
and to minimize the amount of impervious surface. So we might want to consider waiving that requirement. The other question I wanted to just bring to your attention, there is a right-of-way that goes to the property.
Yep.
and provides access to the automotive repair shop, which is adjacent, which is owned by Saloon Realty, which I believe is Mr. Daly. Is that
Mr.
correct?
Daly.
Yes. And if you look at the plan, the proposed parking area slightly encroaches on that proposed right-of-way. And I would just suggest that maybe we move that back a little bit and actually delineate the 10 by 20 parking spaces so that it's clear that that right-of-way area is to be left open.
Because
And let
that
it
was
be-
on a previously approved plan.
Right. We do have a boundary survey that was drawn up by Doucette's Survey, and it was for a limited subdivision which was approved in 2003, and it shows that right-of-way on the plan. And what I'm referring to is this zone here. And if you go back there, it's, you know, there's a whole area that's clear for parking, but it's not clearly defined where the spaces are. So I just thought maybe it might make sense to designate that area for parking for that use, and that it be drawn so that it doesn't infringe upon the right-of-way, so that there'll be clear access in the back for the automotive business. Does that make sense?
As I've seen the lot, we're not talking about a lot that's lined and
No.
everything is precise and so forth. And I know you and your neighbor in the automotive business have been neighbors for some time, and I don't see that, I'm not aware of any conflict or any problem with regard to access in and out. Not everything is very disciplined, and I think people drive where there's nothing parked. So
This isn't
I,
a boundary.
I would tend to feel as though that was not a
Right.
serious concern. And
That's-
although the only thing I would want to mention with regard to the parking of the only thing I would want to mention with regard to the
Well, we'll
parking
put that up.
of the oil
That's
truck
why I said-
is that we do our best to minimize any leakage or anything else like that, because obviously being soil, open soil and so forth, it's eventually going to find its way to the water. So with that said, is there any particular condition you want to put on a motion?
Want a motion?
How-
I'll try to make a motion,
Okay.
if we're ready for one. Go ahead, Val. if you-
Just from discussion, how long is the oil truck? It's going, how long is it? What's the dimensions of the oil truck?
Yep.
So as it's shown on the plan, it's showing that it's 45 feet long, that parking area, so it
Which
wouldn't
it-
encroach on the easement, on the
Right.
right-of-way.
And I guess I wanted to suggest to Mr. Thorne that if he redrew that to actually show it to scale, then those parking spaces would fit on that area without encroaching.
Okay.
Do we need
And
a
I-
change of the site plan to show designated parking for
Yeah,
that
and I
use?
think
I
that's,
don't
I
think
would like
so.
to,
I mean, my personal opinion is that Gil is gonna be there during the day,
right.
for the most part, when the bowling alley isn't open.
It's wide
He
open most of the
He
day.
can
in
park
that- in
anywhere he
that whole
wants,
area.
really. I don't think it's all that important that,
I'd rather
Yeah.
see the condition stated that no parking will infringe on
the right of way.
right-of-way.
Right, that was gonna be
Right,
part of
And that was,
the motion.
yeah.
Ready for a motion?
Ready for a motion?
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve the site plan for 22 North Main Street, tax map U2, lot 266 in the B1 zone, waiving the buffer requirement as per the regulations, with condition that the additional parking is not paved to reduce runoff, and that the existing right-of-way as shown on the 2003 plan is not infringed upon by the new parking plan.
Perfect.
May I add something to this issue, or this minor issue of the right-of-way? The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and most people that go into the people that have the business in back of us will go, nobody ever follows that right-of-way. That right-of-way was put in there in case we wanted to have trailer trucks and stuff go in to be serviced at that garage. Mr. Daly and I discussed this initially back years ago. And the other reason that we put it in there is if we had it there, it would be truly defined so that later on downstream, if there was any questions about egress and whatever goes on in there, that we could go in there and mark it if it became a problem.
And-
Same
and
way
you-
you would a fire lane for a house or a
Yep.
business.
And you understand why it gets discussed here?
Yes.
Because down the road, if there is that enforcement, if you will, of the easement, then, you know, we have to tell somebody to move his oil truck and so forth. We just don't want to get it to a point where,
We're prepared for that, Mr. Roy.
oh, I know you are. I know you are. And as I said before,
Pardon me?
having traveled through there, I know that there's no path to follow. You just avoid the cars and you drive your way through there. I'm fully aware of that. I'm not disputing the problem, the situation at all. Okay? Any other discussion?
No, I already seconded.
Okay. We have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Done.
Mr. Daly will be happy.
I hope you are too, sir.
And you
And he
won't be
called me from California and he says, hey, he says, tell him I think it's a great idea. Don't let him not know about it. I was gonna use that as a trump card, so. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Mr.
Board
Thorne.
service, too. I miss it.
Is it good service? Is that what you
Well,
said?
I've
I
been on
think we're
several
looking for an
boards.
alternate.
I've been on
Yeah,
several
we're
boards over
looking for
the
an
years.
alternate on the planning board.
Thank you.
Thank
See you,
you.
Si.
We have. Okay, that gets us through the business as planned. Where's,
Take care, guys.
good night.
Thank you.
Where's my minutes,
We have this,
my agenda?
I don't know, did somebody steal it from me?
I guess they did.
Oh, there
Oh,
it
here it
is.
is, right here. Okay. We have the period now of new and old business, and I would like to follow what has been suggested here, and that is to discuss the draft, the scope of work of the 2010 Newmarket Community Technical Assistance Project, and its goal is to revise the town's subdivision and site review stormwater regulations to include requirements for proper erosion control, stormwater runoff using best management practices, including low-impact development for all major residential and commercial developments. We have received, by way of a draft, a proposal, I suppose you would call it, from VHB, which is, I'm going to mess this naming up, Vanassi?
Vanessa Hagan, Vanessa Hagan, Breslin.
Thank you, that's what I was going to say.
That's exactly.
And they've presented something here that I think is very worthwhile. And I don't know if you've all had a chance to read it or not, or to review it in at least quick fashion. It takes the form of a proposal which, pardon me? Oh, it takes the form of a proposal, and that proposal is annotated with dollars to be paid and so forth, but we have a grant to cover the cost, and so therefore there is to be, other than a few administrative costs, there is very little cost to the town. For those who have had a chance to read it, if you have, you want to weigh in with your thoughts, and then we can get into an explanation for those who haven't had that chance.
Sounds
Diane?
good, yeah. As you know, we applied for the grant in June, and we heard in September that we received it. And I did hear back from Derek Sauer, who is with the Piscataqua Region Estuarine Partnership. And he had, asked for some feedback as to who the town would like to work with. And I had mentioned to him that we worked hand in hand with Rich Arcieri, who is with... Bill, did I say Rick? I'm sorry, Bill Arcieri, who is with VHB. And VHB was on their list of preferred consultants. And so they contacted Bill to see if he would be available to assist the planning board with this endeavor. And he said he would be, and he worked with Derek and put together this draft scope of services. And for the most part, it mirrors the proposal that we submitted to prep for the technical assistance grant, and it just puts it in a little more specific terms and identifies the level of effort in terms of various tasks that would be completed and the costs. And I just wanted to clarify that this is being funded 100% through through the grant, excuse me. And, you know, there would be in-kind services provided by the town's participation in this, i.e. the planning board participating in meetings, the work group participating in meetings, and doing review of draft materials, as we've done in the past, in order to come up with what they call the match for the program. But it doesn't result in a direct cost to the town of Newmarket. And it pretty much follows the time frame that we outlined. We'd like to get started with the project in December, and they're proposing a meeting where they would come to the planning board and present their preliminary findings, and discuss with the board or a committee, if the board chooses to do this by committee, you know, what the key issues are and how we might clarify those with the regulations. And then they would go into the mode of actually drafting regulations, presenting a second draft to the board, and then asking for final revisions. And they also worked into their work program a task where they would actually come to the public hearings and help explain some of the technical details that go along with implementation of these regulations. And then it would be finalized, and the planning board would then take it and go through its own process towards an adoption of it. So I think in a nutshell, that's what we're looking at. And they have given us a list of project deliverables, which includes attending 3 working meetings with the planning board, attending a maximum of 2 public hearings, and actually developing the language that will be in a form that can be put into our subdivision and our site review regulations. And Derek asked me to share this with the planning board, and if there were any suggested changes or editorial revisions that you would like to see, that they'll incorporate in the final work scope. And this will become the basis, if you will, for the contract that they will have with VHB. This does not go through the town's book, so to speak. And so the grant goes directly to them, and then they hire the consultant, who in turn works with the planning board and will do the work.
So VHB does not bill the town, they bill prep?
That's right.
So the town commitment is a commitment of staff time?
And planning board time to coordinate it and organize the meetings and to get everybody to the table and so forth, yes.
Do any of the planning board members have any questions with regard to what Diane has just explained?
Yeah, I'm glad Diane just said that, because my question was if this came through the town.
No, it does
You
not.
go through the purchasing policy, which is good that you don't have to. Looking at it, the numbers don't seem unreasonable at all. You know, it seems pretty straightforward. I think we need to pay attention with, everybody's throwing around LID techniques. They sound great. I've designed a lot of them. A lot of them don't work in New Hampshire. So when we get the report, I think we need to look at it very carefully and see what works and doesn't work.
We have a qualified member for the subcommittee?
exactly.
That's
Oh,
right.
absolutely. Help me on
Yes,
that,
and
absolutely.
That's the second part I wanted to, if you would like to form a subcommittee to work with staff and the consultant to put something together for the board to review in draft form, we'll be soliciting volunteers
Let me
for.
put it to
You can
this
put
way.
me on it
task
right now.
force and-
Yeah, my question was,
I-
would anyone like to join Eric?
Yeah. I did speak with George Willen, who has an interest in this area as well, and he
There's
said that
two. Need one more?
he, yeah, well, we'd like to have someone from the Conservation Commission, and I always look to Val to see if she might be interested, or if she has a name of someone from the
So we'll
Conservation
get a name,
Commission.
'cause we'll see where we're gonna be on the other issues with the other committees. No, I'll get you back to you on that.
So we have 2 names, you have that?
Yeah, and I'd like to bring Rick Malasky into the process,
I
or
saw
or Sean Gray, because, you know, we need to have their input into this as well.
Other than that, I think the scope of work is fine.
Yeah. I
So
thought
the
they did-
the grant was that Dred would work with us to develop these, but that they're contracting separately to the,
Dred.
didn't you
You
say?
mean
Prep,
prep.
sorry, prep.
Say that again, that
Prep is actually, we're the recipient of the grant.
we're the recipient of the technical assistance. And
But
they
we're
will
not, we're not
administer-
doing the contracting.
No, they will do the contracting. And they do have a list of preferred consultants that they work with based on, different projects that they
Do you want
But they
us,
will be doing all the grant administration, the oversight, which can be, time-consuming, labor-intensive.
But since this is the basis for the contract that they will have with Pratt,
That's right.
do we need a motion to approve this?
Yes, he asked me if the planning board
So I said
could
aye.
review it and comment. And that way, we could get a finalized contract back to the town. There will be some kind of a contract with the town, just spelling out that they'll do X, Y, Z for us as part of this project. But it's not a
No,
not a
contractual,
financial?
it's
Not
not a
finan-
financial contract.
and it's not with VHB, it's with,
But just with the town.
right. Okay, I'll make a motion that we accept the draft scope of work for the 2010 Newmarket Community Technical Assistance Project. Leave it at that.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
Would you like me to make arrangements to have them come to the December meeting and give an overview to the entire board? Or do you
I don't
wanna
know if
hold-
that's necessary, and maybe wait until they have some work product.
Okay,
That would be my opinion, wait till they have a draft, and then we can all
Yep.
read it, and they can present it, and we can have a discussion.
okay.
Their timetable included attending a meeting of the planning board in December. However, I don't think that's mandatory.
Right.
So if it
Right.
works out fine, if it doesn't, that's
Right.
okay too.
Yep.
We can make a
Okay.
last-minute call to them. I don't say last minute, but we can make a call to them later after you've
Okay,
seen everything in order.
okay, very good.
All right, I
Great.
want to mention a
Thank
couple
you.
of things, not to steal anybody's thunder, but there is an OEP, that's the Office of Energy and Planning, Fall Planning and Zoning Conference coming up this Saturday. I will be attending, Rick McMenamin will be attending, and possibly Val Shelton. Is anybody else planning to go? Guess not. Just thought I'd make you aware of that, because it happens that Val, Rick, and myself are part of the, and I are part of the impact fee committee within the planning board. And I, at one point, explained that I wanted to get up to speed on the impact fee regulation, which this will give me an opportunity to do, since they have a 2-hour block on the impact fees. So I will hope to be better versed when I return, and we can get our committee working towards giving you, the other members of the planning board, an update on our thoughts anyway on the impact fee and how it's administered and how it's been gone through to this point. Another thing that's come to my attention is another workshop called Water, Weather, Climate, and Community. And it is to be held on Tuesday, November 30th from 5 to 8:30 at the Great Bay Discovery Center, the Gregg Coastal Conservation Center to be precise. And it deals with how recent weather events have affected local communities and so forth and so on. If you have any interest, I'll be glad to forward you copies of this. But that's what I have. Anybody else have other input for old and new?
Just under old business, the Hickory Pond development that they've started construction on with the road, just wanted, Conservation Commission, just wants to thank Diane for jumping in on that. The concern here was, particularly conditions of approval on cutting restrictions, and nothing had been flagged relative to the no-cut zones. If there could be some follow-up, there was a real concern about how much clearing was done, and was that all under the plan as approved?
I did follow up with the developer, Frank Capano, and he, by the time we reached him, clearing work had been done. But he was not aware that he was required to come to the town and seek permission before he started the cutting work, which he acknowledged that was in the developer's agreement, and profusely apologized for the oversight. He did go out immediately after that telephone call, and he has put into place the erosion control measures at this point. And Mr. Doucette has gone out and has marked the wetland buffer of the area. I've been informed that that has happened. I haven't actually been out there to walk the site. But they have come back retroactively and done what they should have done before they started the cutting activity.
In the no-cut buffer zone.
That's
There's
something, and that was supposed to be part of the flagging as well, that that would be defined. And I don't know if they've done that. I would be happy to go out and view the site, and if you'd like to join me, so we can, you know, do a follow-up visit
Yeah.
to see if that's been done. I'm more
Did
than
they
happy to
infringe
do
on
that.
that? That's a valid question.
We
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
The
Okay, it wasn't
condition of
part
the
of it.
approval and the
Right.
approved plan stated that that was
Right.
all to be flagged, and not just flagged, but marked,
Prior to,
designated,
right.
prior to any development activities on the
Right.
site.
What's the schedule out there now, Diane?
Well,
They-
he's finished for this year, for this construction season.
Okay.
He's going back out, I believe, in the spring to start the work. He contacted me today and said he's interested in getting together with the town for some kind of pre-construction conference, which will hopefully alleviate some of these misunderstandings in the future.
You're not gonna have that till the spring, though, right?
He wanted to meet, he said in the next couple of weeks he wanted to set something up. I don't,
I wouldn't,
Doesn't
my advice is
really
I
make
wouldn't
sense.
do it until he's ready
Till
to start in the
he's ready to
spring.
start,
He's
right.
gonna forget everything you tell him between now and April.
Well, that's the Conservation Commission's concern is we have all the, you know, through the planning board, all these conditions of approvals, and even with the wetlands permits, you know, because it would have, you know, for DES to be contacted, because that was a condition of their wetlands crossing permits. But how can developers be more, you know, feet to the fire? Because it's not like Diane and Dan are out just driving
well,
around.
they never
Uh,
in our developers agreement, we have very specific language that the town planner and the building official are supposed to check on the markings to make sure that they're in place before they start the cutting activity. It's one of the conditions, and they just
Just
didn't,
ignored.
they just
I-
ignored it.
I have to say, I saw Doucette out there, I assume laying out the cutting.
The
and
road,
then
but they
the
weren't
road.
contracted to
Right.
do the
Right.
buffer.
The buffer, right. And then I knew they were cutting because I would drive by it every
Right,
day,
and I saw it,
you know.
yeah.
Suppose I should have called you and let you know. I had no idea that you didn't know that they were doing it.
This has happened before, where we haven't been notified and we should have been, so hopefully in the future. You know, the explanation that he gave me was, well, we don't really view tree removal as the start of construction. So
What is
that's
it?
his,
To start a construction? Can't
well,
start.
technically, you don't have to have a permit for tree removal under normal circumstances. You just have to have an intent to cut. Which
but
they
that's all-
did file that.
Did they get that all approved and everything?
They did, yes. There was one area where there had been some cutting that apparently was done on their property that they did not authorize, and that's, I can show you on the site plan where that is. And I wasn't sure if that was one of the areas that you had some concerns about. But he said, we did not do that cutting. That was one of the abutters who he felt had encroached upon his property.
So are you asking if there should be a penalty for these kinds of things that happen in the future?
No, I think it's, because with any type of conditions of approval or ordinance or whatever, it's all gets down to, you know, how is it enforced or how is it even acknowledged? It's really acknowledged because people are driving by and saying, hey, this just started, and what does that trigger? And then, of course, you know, one of our commission members lives across the street from there, so he's like, well, nothing's been done for the wetlands. So even if it's logging activity that's occurring through there, you have all the erosion issues and sedimentation issues. And then it brings up, you know, we go through we spend a lot of time on this particular development. And one of the big issues too was the buffer zones. Not just the wetlands, but there were extensive buffer zones in the layouts of the houses.
Well, and that's part of the purpose of having the pre-construction conference is to make sure that there is a clear understanding among all the parties, not only the developer, but his contractors and subcontractors, of what the town's expectations are. So hopefully in the future, we can be more proactive, and
Maybe we need to put more teeth in our regulations
that could very well be
and
the
put some
case.
penalties in there, or, you know, he's put up a bond, right?
He has put, he has a, I think it's a $240,000
Always get their
bond.
attention if you tell them you're gonna call their bond. Their financiers don't
He'll
like
take the
that.
call.
Absolutely, absolutely. Won't be the first time either. He'll get their attention.
Mm.
He'll let us know everything he's doing from here on out.
That's a good point. Pin everything down to the bond.
Right.
I mean, these are the conditions of approval, this is the approved plan.
Right.
It's
And
good to do that.
I don't know this gentleman at all, and, you
Yeah.
know, take him at his word that it's an honest mistake, but what I know of developers, if this guy's done any development before, he knew exactly what he was doing.
Well, he has done development before. He built
he
my
knows- he knew-
development.
he knew
We're
exactly-
living on him.
He knew exactly what he was doing then, and he just decided to step on the town. So,
It's easier to ask for forgiveness than what it is for permission.
absolutely, maybe.
That's true, unless there's a bond
Well-
involved.
That's right.
Any other discussion? Val, anything else?
No, the commission wanted me to relay that.
Okay. Thank you, Val.
Anything from you? It's your turn, Janice.
Oh, make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
You're
All in
so good
favor?
at that.
Aye.
This is my favorite line.
It's funny.
What's your line?